Welcome to day 5 of the Just Say No Facebook challenge. Today is about living life on your own terms, because if you're saying yes to more of the things that you want to do, more of the people that you want to spend time with, and no to those that you don't do, those people that you don't want to spend time with, then you are living life on your own terms. But that's easier said than done, if you think about it. So I'm Allison Penna, aka Bad Widow, and what I know from my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and lived 11 months and died in my arms at home. And so what I know is life is short and precious. And so if you are spending your life doing things that are not things that light you up, spending time with people who you don't feel connected to, who you really care about, then you are wasting your life. You are not living life on your own terms. Now, the fact of the matter is we can't always live life on our own terms. We do need to make choices. That's realistic. But the question that I would ask you is, if you are not making choices to say yes to what you want to do and no to what you don't want to do, if you're not doing that right now, then when are you going to start? When is that going to be a priority for you? To say no and yes, your own wants, needs, and desires. Yesterday I gave an assignment about saying no in romantic relationships. Did anyone check that out? Those of you watching on the replay. I want to do a quick recap of what we've done over the last week. Over the last week, during the Just Say No challenge, we established saying no to be taken seriously on day 1. To manage your time and your priorities more powerfully on day 2, in your careers or in your businesses on day 3, and in your romantic relationships on day 4. And today is about living life on your own terms, saying no to live life on your own terms. Because all of these things are essential to create for yourself a life worth living. Life is short, people. It's really necessary to make choices that make every minute count. Honestly, in the last 11 months when Dave was sick and we were facing his death together, we lived our lives more fully than we had years before that. So for me, on my bucket list, I wanted to speak on stage about my work. And I spoke on 2 stages. I had wanted to sing, to have some solo performances in cabaret shows. I did that 4 times. And the last time was the Tuesday before he died. His last commission that he finished was the Thursday before he died. If we had lived the 24 years before that like that, we would both have had very different lives and a very different marriage. Now, I am not saying that that we did not have very good lives, a very good marriage, because we did. We really did. And I'm sure that you are too. But if you're waiting to live life on your own terms, what are you waiting for? Because I'll tell you that 11 months experience while Dave was dying was a serious wake-up call for how I wanted my life to go, what mattered to me, what didn't matter to me, and how I chose to say yes or no based on what I wanted, as opposed to based on what other people thought I should be doing. Because to some degree, we all to other people's ideas of what we should be doing sometimes, but not all the time. all the time makes a life not worth living. We talk a lot about life and work, life-work balance. That is actually a fiction. It's a mythological creature, because in life, we work 60 to 80% of the time in our lives. So if we're not doing work that makes a difference, that matters to us, then we probably should find some different work to do. So I was doing proofreading, which was great. I was doing editing, which was great. It didn't light me up. So now I tutor, I consult, I sell paintings, I write poetry, I sing. All of these things light me up. Could I make money proofreading? Yeah, I did it for 20 some years. Absolutely. Is that for me a life worth living? And the answer was no. So I don't do that. I chose to stop doing that. Even though in a practical sense, it would make sense for me to do that again. Okay. When we say yes to something we do not care about, we are saying no to something else that matters more. Because life is short. Everybody's got a finite amount of time. Money is not finite. There's plenty of it out there. It may or may not be in your pocket. You may or may not need to figure out how to get more of it in your pocket. Time is finite. It doesn't matter how much money you have. We each have the same amount of time. Every single one of us. So you can leverage your time with money, but you yourself don't get more time. That's it. To have a life living on your terms, you need to figure out what that means. What does on your terms mean for you? For each and every person, it's something different. There is no right way, although you will sometimes be told that there is a right way. And if you've been told this, you will probably have also been told that you are doing it the wrong way. Not true. If you are not doing life your way, if you're not doing life on your terms, you are not doing it the right way for you. If you are trying to follow somebody else's roadmap, you will get lost. It's not your roadmap, not your path. It's not your journey. These are not your choices. You're following somebody else's choices. And the bottom line, what happens when you do that is you fail. Every time. Guaranteed. So the key to not failing at living a life on your own terms is to figure out what on your own terms means and start to live that way. How do you want to spend your time? Time is finite. So remember the affluence code distinctions I told you about on day 3. Everyone cares about doing impeccable work, nurturing relationships, including with themselves, and serving a thriving ecosystem or community in one of 6 possible archetypes, which I'm not going to talk about there. You have to actually talk to me personally to find out about that. I'm glad to have a 20-minute virtual Resilient Spirit breakthrough session with you and clarify what the benefits of knowing yours could be for you. So once you figure out what your first priority is and you start spending about 60% of your time in there, then life gets significantly easier. You've all experienced those moments when you've been operating in your zone of genius, using strategies that work best for you, feeling wholly yourself, delivering what you uniquely can deliver and nobody else on the planet can deliver in exactly that way. Because here's the thing, you are special, you are unique in all the world. What you bring to the table, nobody else can bring on the planet. There's no redundancy. These are not things we're told very often, but they are true. Once you figure out what your affluence code is, you start getting very swift, very exceptional results with much less effort. So there are three. There's work. That's the lens I call purpose. Caring about the work that you do. Now, as I said, everyone cares about all of these. There's no right way. There's just the way that's going to work for you. And figuring out what that is really, really important. Caring about yourself, your family, your friends. That's a lens I call love. And caring about your community or ecosystem. So this is community, ecosystem, world, all of that. That's the lens I call charity. Start asking yourself these questions. Who do you want to spend time with? Is it colleagues, team members, or clients? Is it yourself, your family, and your friends? Is it in service, contributing to and participating in one or more causes that you care about? So you can see I'm still laddering to those three. You care about all of them. Which one comes first? Where when you're being that way, doing those things, do you feel most fulfilled, happiest? What I want you to do is once you figure that out, start saying no to anything that's not as much as you can. As I said before, it's impossible to say no to all of the things that don't light us up. But you can significantly increase your yeses to those things that do. And you can start really looking at your life and seeing where you're spending time in ways that are not fulfilling, do not make you happy, do not bring you joy, and start changing that situation. What activities matter most to you? Is it brainstorming? Is it creation? Is it getting something done, execution? Is it intimacy, connection, nurturing other people and yourself? So self-care falls in there. Is it creating a ripple effect, influencing and impacting the world? Identify activities that you enjoy and are passionate about and say yes to more of them, even if that seems frivolous. We are taught to downgrade the importance of joy. But here's the thing, joy fuels us. Joy makes us more effective. Time flies when you're having fun. We get more and more effective when we're having fun. When I did the previous challenge about getting present using your 5 senses, one of the things that we discovered is that teams which touch each other, their communication is better, but also their performance improves. So doing what brings you joy is not actually frivolous, it's just plain efficient. In our culture, there's very often a bias against the value of pleasure because we assume that work is more important. Not true. How much money do you want to make? This is a very individual question, but we are given pretty templated answers to that. So if you're an entrepreneur, very often, if you ask an entrepreneur how much money do they want to make, they will say $10,000 a month. Consistently. They will say $100,000 a year, $1 million a year, whatever. It's different for every single person. You might care more about creating a small footprint. You might care more about being creative. You might care more about something other than money. That may not be your driving force. If it's not your driving force, figure out what it is. The fact of the matter is that any kind of person can make as much money as they want, but the amount that they want may differ. It may not be the same for everybody. So when we look at this and we say, well, I want this amount because that's what the culture says you should want, That may or may not be true for you. Round numbers are usually a lie. Nobody wants $100,000. Nobody wants $10,000. Because in fact, if you go and buy something, it's not a round number. Hardly ever is it a round number. It's an odd number. It's a strange number. It's a different number. It's not a round number. So what's your real number? The other thing I want to talk to you about is that we set up, so it's natural in our lives to expand and contract as things happen to us. When we have a loss, we contract. So we become protective. We take the time that we need to heal. That's fine. That's not a problem unless we never expand again. So it's natural, like breathing, like the ocean, to expand and contract. Eventually, even if we've contracted to integrate, to do what we need to do to take in either growth or hurt, it's necessary to then stretch out again, to reach again for joy, to reach again for wholeness. Because one of the things I talk about a whole lot as Bad Widow is that none of us are broken. No matter what's happened to us, none of us are broken. If we've lost a person, if we've lost a pet, if we've lost a home, if we've lost a job, a business opportunity, had a money breakdown, we are not broken. We are not broken. And we live in a world which tells us very often that we are. And we tell ourselves very often that we are. Health is another area. You are not broken. The decisions you make as a person who conceives of themselves as broken are going to be very different than the decisions you make as a person who knows that you're whole and facing some challenges. So this is why I'm really encouraging you to live life on your own terms, whatever those terms are. Therefore, it's important to have more than just a budget to survive, because if you're working to pay the bills, there's no joy to it. So when you set your budget, what are the things that you need to survive? And then on top of that, what do you need to add in to give yourself a life worth living? And I would encourage you to remember that those don't have to be very expensive. We think of our pleasures as we grow older as needing to be expensive. So I tell a story about when children in a neighborhood get the delivery in their home of a refrigerator box. Very often the parents will keep the box. And then the box becomes a castle, a cave, all kinds of things. For a box is more exciting than almost anything they've ever seen, because they can use their imagination to make it anything. So what I would encourage you to remember is that expanding your budget to include things that bring you joy does not have to be expensive. Okay. And I have a whole process about budget to survive versus budget to thrive. I have a whole process in my work about increasing your bank balance, owning the increase first in your body. So I have a whole lot of work that I do in my usual work about this. And what legacy do you want to leave behind? What's important to you? When you're gone, what do you want people to say about you? This is the kind of process when people say, okay, write your obituary. What would people say? This is what do you care about that you will leave behind. Now, it could be your family. It could be world peace. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is for you. It could be creating a patent that changes something. Could be work. Is whatever life on your own terms looks like. There's no right answer. There's your answer. You just have to figure out what that is. What level of self-care do you require? So this is something I haven't talked very much about in these 5 days. And we very often hold it as optional. It's not optional for most people, although we pretend that it is. We tend to get impatient when we stop running and stop working to take time for ourselves. Here's what happens if you ignore self-care for too long. You'll get stressed, you'll get you'll get exhausted, you'll get burnt out, you will get sick, and you could die. And don't think I'm overstating it. Really, if you allow yourself to get so drained by not giving yourself some self-care in your life, these things will happen. They will happen as surely as that you will be a caregiver for someone you love. You will see someone you love die, and you will die yourself. It's that certain. You must take care of yourself. You are the linchpin in your own life. No matter who you are, there are people who are depending on you to be whole and healthy, and that's what self-care is. So you have to ask yourself, what is it that fills you up? What is it that when you're depleted you go to feel better? And what drains you? And you need to start saying yes to the things that fill you up and no to the things that drain you. Is it massage? Is it journaling? Is it travel? Yoga? Meditation? Is it dance? Going out with friends? Going to a show? Is it singing? You'll have your own things that fill you up, that you just love to do. And when you come out of that, you are fired up and excited and ready to go and ready to tackle anything, honestly. For me, that is singing and brainstorming. So there are lots of things that I do to fill myself up. I go to museums. What are your things? Okay, this next point is really important. How do you know when you need to rest and focus on self-care before you hit the wall? Okay, so that's key. What they say about getting a cold is the minute you feel a tickle, you're meant to start addressing the cold. Because once you're solidly into it, it's much harder to get rid of. So how do you know? What are your tells, like in poker? What are your indicators that you're starting to get close, that you're starting to feel drained? Figure those out. Secondly, because very often we don't figure it out until we're there. Secondly, what I want you to do is I want you to develop a list of self-care activities that fill you up. And I want you to have that list, because if you get to the point where you've hit the wall, you will not be able to think of anything. So when I was a caregiver for Dave, I knew for sure I would wind up depleted pretty often in the time while we were fighting for his life. And so I reached out to some friends that I knew were really good at self-care, and I asked them for their best ideas. And when I reached out, I received 100 great self-care ideas. Yeah, it's a great idea to make the list ahead of time, because when you're exhausted, you will not remember what you need to do to fill up again. It's impossible. Okay, action steps. We're to the action steps portion of the program. Action steps to just say no and live life on your own terms. Goethe said, seek above all for a game worth playing. So what is your game worth playing? Once you figure out your affluence code, you'll know where to spend 60% of your time in order to make your life worth living. Once you are operating according to your affluence code, you will have easily and joyfully all that you desire in your life. Because that's how it works. When you're congruent with who you are and you start acting that way, just everything shows up seamlessly. We've been going over this. We've been going over this for the live. But what does life on your own terms look like for you specifically? What you need to do is look at those people and activities that bring you the most joy for a clue. And then it's pretty simple. You're going to do more of those. Just do more of those. And with the mathematical equation, you're just going to keep increasing the things that you notice bring you joy, decreasing the things that drain you, and you will get closer and closer to the life of your deepest desires, the life that you want on your own terms. Okay, once you've completed your assessment, you're going to look at your calendar and your to-do list. So this is the really practical part. And see if you are saying yes and no, congruent with what matters most to you. If you see, when you look at your calendar and your to-do list, that your life is being driven to other people's priorities, you need to make some changes. Because life is short. Life is short. You have the same amount of time as every other person on the planet. One day will be your last day. Guaranteed. So what are you going to do with that life that you have? Isn't it worth making changes and living it on your own terms? So consider breaking your time into percentages. Time for work, time for one-on-one relationships, and time for community. So you're going to block your time and you're going to basically have those three different buckets. Now, obviously, those three different buckets can be broken up into many other pieces. You can cut life into all different ways. It's going to be what matters to you. But those three buckets are basically how things are going to fall. So one-on-one relationships, your relationship with yourself could be a relationship in the area of health. Community could be church, it could be networking, it could be the world, it could be all kinds of things. Could be TED Talk organization, who knows? Whatever, yeah, live on your own terms. When you're saying no to the wrong people and things, what you'll notice is you'll notice a rise in your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion, your joy, and your love as you make more space and time for authentic yeses. So as you start figuring out these percentages, you're going to just start noticing what increases your sense of wholeness and congruence. And yes, I am doing exactly what I want to be doing in this moment. Do more of that. So you're going to keep tweaking it as you discover more. Prioritize self-care every week and put it in your calendar to take better time of you, better care of yourself. For somebody, or for many somebodies, you are the linchpin. It's important that you be well and whole and happy. Life is short. Live it on your own terms. Wow. Okay. Day 5 assignment. And I don't have water. Day 5 assignment. Schedule a resilient spirit breakthrough session to find out how I can support you even more. Sorry. I'm going to leave all 5 Facebook Lives up for this challenge for free until sometime Monday, November 12th. So please feel free to invite other people to come and check it out while it's free. Thank you so much for playing with me, participating with me. I appreciate you. You are unique in the world. It is important that you live life on your own terms, that you live life with joy, because life is short. Allison Penna, aka Bad Widow.